Welcome to this session, where we will be exploring the basic concepts and terminology that make up anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology. As we move through this session, it is important to fully understand each concept and term, as this will give you the ability to link the practical application of applied anatomy and physiology to your theoretical understanding of the subject. The study of anatomy is an extremely old science, with many of the terms having Latin roots. And because of this, they tend to be difficult to pronounce. Learning anatomical terms is like learning a whole new language, so the time spent doing so is time well spent. A basic term we need to know is anatomical structure. This refers to any biological part of your body that occupies space and is distinguished from its surroundings. Examples of this would be organs, tissues, and cells. The first concept we will look at is the concept of homeostasis. This is an extremely important concept and is vital to understand. Homeostasis refers to the ability of an organism to regulate different variables to maintain stability. The human body exists in a state of balance, so in other words, the right amount of hormones flow through our bloodstreams. Our hearts beat just fast enough to provide oxygenated blood to our tissues. Our lungs breathe in the right amount of oxygen to keep us alive, and so on. Our bodies maintain this state of balance by way of feedback mechanisms. There are thousands of these mechanisms that work to regulate things such as blood sugar, hormone levels, and heart rate. Within a homeostatic mechanism, there are at least three parts. Firstly, there must be some sort of sensor that monitors a state or senses a change in that state. Secondly, there must also be a control center that processes information about changes in the system. And finally, there must be an effector that enacts change in the system. We can simplify this by saying that a homeostatic system must be able to first sense the changes in something, then determine what to do about the change, and finally do something about the change. Homeostatic systems work by incorporating two types of feedback loops, positive and negative. In positive feedback, the stimulus and response are the same. There aren't too many positive feedback loops in the body, but an example would be what happens in labor and delivery. A hormone is secreted that stimulates contractions, which causes more of that hormone to be secreted, resulting in stronger and stronger contractions to occur until the baby is born. Here, the stimulus is the hormone causing contractions, which is the same as the response, i.e., the hormone causing more contractions. In negative feedback, the stimulus and response are opposite. The majority of systems in the body use negative feedback loops. An example of this would be the regulation of glucose levels in the body. If blood glucose gets too high, the body responds by secreting a hormone to bring it back down. Likewise, if blood glucose gets too low, the body responds by secreting a different hormone to bring it back up. Let's now look at how the body is organized. Our bodies are made up of solid and hollow parts. Solid parts of the body are the arms and legs, which are referred to as the extremities, while hollow parts of the body are referred to as body cavities. These body cavities all contain organs and are found in the head, back, chest, and stomach. At the front of your body, there is a large hollow area, which is known as the ventral cavity, and at the back of your body, there is a smaller hollow area, which is known as the dorsal cavity. The ventral cavity is split into two parts, the upper and lower part. The upper part is referred to as the thoracic cavity, and the lower part is referred to as the abdominopelvic cavity. These two areas are separated from each other by the diaphragm. In the dorsal cavity, there is the cranial cavity, which is the hollow space in the skull that contains the brain. There is also the spinal cavity, which is located within the vertebral column and holds the spinal cord. Anatomical position. Due to the human body being extremely movable, we use the term anatomical positioning as a reference point. This term is the description of a specific stance the body is in. In this position, the body is upright, facing forward, with the arms at the sides and feet facing forward. When categorizing anatomical terms, we can split them into regional and positional. Regional terms just describe the body parts, while positional terms describe the location of the body parts. Now, take a brief moment to read through the various regional terms in this table. Positional terms can be grouped into pairs. Examples of these would be the terms superior and inferior. Superior means above and inferior means below. We could write a statement saying that the head is superior to the chest, or to be more specific, the cephalon is superior to the thorax. The reverse of this phrase would also be true. Here are some other positional terms that are frequently used. Anterior, meaning towards the front, and posterior, meaning towards the back. Example, the sternum is anterior to the heart. Medial, which is located towards the midline of the body, and lateral, which is located away from the midline. For example, the ears are lateral to the nose. Proximal means towards the trunk of the body, while distal means away from the trunk. Proximal and distal are usually used when describing structures in the extremities. For example, the elbow is proximal to the wrist. Superficial means towards the surface, while deep means under the surface. For example, the skin is superficial to the stomach. Ipsilateral means on the same side, while contralateral means on the opposite side. For example, the right shoulder and right elbow are ipsilateral. We must note that the opposites of all these statements are also true. When we examine the body, we often divide it using what are known as anatomical planes. These are used to describe the location of structures or the direction of movement. There are three basic anatomical planes in the body. The sagittal plane divides the body into right and left portions. If a sagittal plane runs right down the middle of the body, it is called a mid-sagittal plane. And if it is off-center, it is called a parasagittal plane. The coronal or frontal plane divides the body into front and back parts, which can also be known as ventral and dorsal sections. The transverse plane divides the body into top and bottom parts. These are also known as superior and inferior sections. This plane runs perpendicular to the coronal and sagittal planes. The term oblique plane is used to describe any plane that is not the sagittal, coronal, or transverse plane and that runs at an angle. Since the abdomen is a larger area and contains a lot of organs, we often divide it into quadrants so that we can describe the location of particular abdominal problems. This is most frequently used by healthcare providers, but is useful to know. The four areas are referred to as the right and left upper quadrants and the right and left lower quadrants. This method of dividing up the abdominal region uses a transverse and mid-sagittal plane, intersecting at the umbilicus, more commonly known as the belly button. Now, let's take a brief look at an overview of all of the body systems. We will be covering these in more detail in subsequent sessions. The skeletal system consists of bones, ligaments, and cartilage. It provides protection and support, produces red blood cells, and also stores chemical salts. The muscular system, first and foremost, creates movement, which helps to maintain posture and produce heat. The nervous system consists of the brain, spinal cord, and receptors. It receives sensory information, detects changes, and then responds by stimulating muscles and glands. The endocrine system is a series of glands that secrete hormones. Within this system, there are many feedback loops that help to maintain homeostasis. The cardiovascular system includes the heart, arteries, capillaries, and veins. The function of the cardiovascular system is to transport blood throughout the body. The lymphatic system includes the lymph vessels, lymph nodes, thymus, and spleen. The function of the lymphatic system is to return fluid to blood, as well as transport some absorbed food molecules and defend against infection. The respiratory system consists of the nasal cavity, lungs, pharynx, larynx, trachea, and bronchi. The respiratory system supplies the body with oxygen and eliminates carbon dioxide. The digestive system consists of a large tube known as the alimentary canal, along with some accessory organs. The function of the digestive system is to receive, break down, and absorb food. It also eliminates wastes.